You know, sometimes a story falls into my old hands and it feels like holding someone's heartbeat after it's already stopped. It is warm, trembling, and you know it was once full of life. And then suddenly, it wasn't. There was a line in the message that struck me straight in the chest. It said, "My sister didn't die, but she killed herself last week." My God. I read it 3 times before I could breathe again. There is a silence inside a sentence like that. A silence so heavy, even the truth feels afraid to move. And as I read this young person's words, every detail, every memory, every desperate piece of love left behind, I felt the same ache I have carried for decades. The ache of watching someone you adore fade in ways you didn't understand until it was too late to touch them. Last week, many of you joined me for the story of Lily, the child who grew up learning to stay invisible just to keep the peace. She learned to disappear so softly that even the people who loved her forgot to look for the places she hurt. And now today, we're stepping into another kind of invisible pain. Not a child this time, but a sister, a beautiful soul named Olivia, a girl who cleaned the entire house while she was breaking inside, a girl who folded her clothes by color and labeled them as if organizing her life made it easier to leave it, a girl who believed that love was something she had to earn by serving everyone else. You see, stories like these don't come out of nowhere. They come from years of silence. Years of believing you're too much or not enough or somehow both at the same time. Years of feeling like your worth lies in what you can do, not who you are. That's why I always say, people don't break suddenly. They break quietly. Piece by piece, kindness by kindness, sacrifice by sacrifice. Olivia was 20 years old. Just 20. And this young person who sent me their confession, this brother or sister who would have moved mountains for her, is now left holding every unanswered question in the world. Questions that tear you open. Questions that keep you staring at the ceiling long after midnight. Questions that don't have answers because the one person who knew them believed she wasn't allowed to take up that kind of space. When I read that she stocked up her medication for months, when I read that she left lists, passwords, instructions, when I read that her room was perfectly packed, as if she were trying to spare her family any burden at all, I had to put my glasses down and wipe my eyes. Because this wasn't impulsive. This wasn't sudden. This wasn't a moment of chaos. This was a girl who planned her exit with the same love she used to clean, to cook, to care, to give. Even in death, she was thinking of everyone else. God help us. And let me tell you something. When a person cares more about everyone else's comfort than their own survival, that is not kindness. That is not selflessness. That is pain wearing an apron. Pain trying to stay useful. Pain trying not to be a burden. Pain believing its own disappearance would make life easier for the people it loves. And that, my dears, that is the part that breaks me. Because Olivia wasn't unloved. She wasn't unwanted. She wasn't forgotten. She was misunderstood in the way quiet, anxious people often are. She was careful, orderly, thoughtful, a little controlling maybe, but only because the world inside her spun too fast and keeping her space perfect was the only way she knew how to breathe. Her family wasn't cruel. They were ordinary, busy, human. They didn't see the signs because nobody ever taught them what a collapsing mind looks like when it's hidden under politeness and productivity. And that is why this story matters. That is why I'm telling it. Because for every Olivia in the world, there's someone like you. Someone who loves her more than anything. Someone who would give anything to have one more chance. Someone who would scream through the walls of time just to say, please stay. You don't have to earn my love. You already have it. But life doesn't give second chances the way our hearts wish it did. This storyteller, this grieving sibling, said something that haunts me. I slept in her bed that night, freshly showered, fresh pajamas, clean from top to bottom. She'd have been so pleased. Do you hear the ache in that? The longing, the desperate wish to follow the rules she lived by, even after she was gone, as if obeying them might somehow bring her back. Loss makes us do that. It makes us cling to the rituals of the people we've lost. It makes us want to honor them in small, tender ways, the ways we couldn't when they were alive, because we didn't know how much they mattered. It is a terrible thing to love someone in hindsight. And so, my dear ones, if you are new here, if you have stumbled upon this porch by accident or by fate, I want you to know that every week we gather to tell the stories people don't know how to carry alone. Stories like Olivia's, stories like Lily's, stories that bruise the soul but heal something too. Because finally, someone is saying them out loud. And if you haven't heard last week's story, I want you to go back and listen. Not because you have to, but because these stories speak to each other like sisters across time. Each one adds a little more truth to the next. Now, take a deep breath with me, because what I am about to tell you, Olivia's story, from the beginning, is not an easy tale, but it is a necessary one, a true one, a story that might make someone out there recognize the quiet suffering in their own home or their own heart. So sit down, pour your tea, hold someone's hand if you can. Let's begin. Olivia's story didn't begin with pills or lists. It began with a girl who believed love had to be earned. A girl who folded her little hands at the dinner table and whispered, "I'll help. I'll do it myself. Don't worry." A girl whose voice was soft, but whose heart carried more than any child should ever bear. From the moment she could walk, she learned the quiet rules of her family. She learned to anticipate needs before they were spoken. She learned that smiling could protect someone else from disappointment. She learned that perfection, or at least the appearance of it, was safer than asking for help. Her childhood home wasn't cruel. It was ordinary, busy, full of laughter and chores and errands and work. But for Olivia, it became a place where she measured her worth by usefulness, where love wasn't a gift freely given, but something she had to earn through sacrifice. Even then, she showed small acts of care that left deep impressions on the people around her. She would put napkins on her sister's shirt to make cleaning up easier. She would rearrange the pantry so it was easier to find things. She would fold clothes just so, in order, and tuck them neatly into drawers. But beneath the smiles and folded laundry, a storm was brewing. An anxiety that whispered she wasn't enough, a fear that she was too much, and a quiet sadness she didn't know how to name. As Olivia grew older, her OCD became more pronounced. The rituals weren't just habits, they were shields, lines drawn to keep a world that felt unpredictable at bay. She washed her hands repeatedly. She arranged her possessions in strict order. She rehearsed the steps of her day over and over in her head because any mistake might ripple outward in ways she could not control. And still, she gave herself to others, to her family, to her friends, always attentive, always careful, always the first to notice when someone needed help, a smile, a clean plate, a warm bed. Her sibling remembered her birthday, her 20th birthday, when they gave her a hamper filled with everything she loved. Her reaction was immediate. Tears. Not tears of joy or of being spoiled, but tears born from disbelief that she was loved in the way she truly needed to be loved. She always cared too much about everyone else, her sibling wrote, and not herself. I hear that, my dears, and I know that ache well. Weeks passed and Olivia's light began to dim. A sickness she could not explain settled over her. She seemed withdrawn, tired in a way that wasn't just fatigue. She said she wasn't feeling well. She stopped joining the outings she normally loved. Her family, trusting her words, left her at home one Sunday afternoon. 6 hours later, she was gone. Before that day, she had prepared meticulously. The antidepressants she had been taking for months were stockpiled carefully in the quantities she had calculated. Her room, usually a sanctuary of neat chaos, was perfectly arranged. Every article of clothing folded and packed into labeled bags, passwords, instructions, notes, all carefully written down so her family wouldn't struggle after she was gone. This was a girl who in life had tried to give everything to everyone else, and in death, she did the same. Her sibling wrote, I slept in her bed that night, freshly showered, fresh pajamas, clean from top to bottom. She'd have been so pleased. Can you hear that? The longing? The aching, quiet love that fills every word? The desire to honor a ritual she valued even after her absence? Olivia had been a careful, thoughtful soul, but no amount of thoughtfulness can shield a person from the darkness that sometimes lives quietly inside. No amount of planning can prevent a mind from breaking under weight it was never meant to carry. She was not weak. She was not careless. She was not unlovable. She was human. And in this flashback, I want you to remember her as she truly was. A girl who loved deeply, gave freely, and hid her suffering in a way that made the world believe she was fine until she was not.
Now, my dears, pause with me for a moment. Sit down, lean in close, take a slow breath, and feel the weight of what we just shared. Olivia's story is not unique. It is, tragically, familiar. It is a mirror held up to every home where a quiet voice goes unheard, where a child, a sibling, a friend, a lover hides their pain in service to others, where suffering wears a mask of perfection. And that, my loves, is the part most people don't understand. Pain can be invisible. It can wear an apron, a smile, a tidy room, a folded shirt, and the world calls it normal. But silence is not absence. Silence is not peace. Silence is not calm. Silence is a cry that starts small, in the tremble of a hand, in the hesitation to speak, in the careful avoidance of burdening anyone else. I wish, oh, how I wish that Olivia had believed what her sibling always told her. I love you regardless of what you do. Because that's the truth every person who is hurting needs to hear. Not just in words, but in action. Not just sometimes, but always. She tried to protect her family from pain. She tried to shield them from worry. She even prepared them for the day she would be gone. And here's the cruel irony. Her family never wanted her gone. They never wanted this. But she couldn't believe that. She couldn't believe she was enough. And now, my dears, I want you to pause and ask yourself, have you ever dismissed someone's quiet pain? Have you ever said, they'll be fine, and walked away? Have you ever looked at a carefully folded room or a smiling face and assumed everything is okay? Because that's the lesson Olivia leaves us. The absence of noise does not mean the absence of struggle. If you are listening to this, and you are that person, you who struggles quietly, silently, carefully, I need you to hear this from my old heart to yours. You are enough. You are loved. You are seen, even when you feel invisible. And if you are the one who loves someone like Olivia, do not wait until the tragedy has already happened. Do not wait for signs you think are clear. Do not wait until it is too late to act. Listen. Really listen. Ask questions. Spend time. Show up. Because the person who seems the strongest often carries the heaviest burden. This is where I always pause in my own stories, because it is painful to say and painful to hear. And yet it is necessary, because someone somewhere needs to know they are not alone. Someone somewhere needs to know they can survive, or at least be held before they fall. And so, my dears, if you are still sitting with me, if you have not turned away, I want you to take a deep breath. Let the sorrow and the love wash over you. Let the truth sink in. Let the reality of Olivia's life and death change how you hold the people you love. Go back to them tonight. Go back to them tomorrow. Tell them, show them. Even the smallest gesture counts, because sometimes, just sometimes, it is enough to save a life. And before we leave this part of her story, before we return to the present, let me ask you this. Can you hear the silence? Can you see the hands that have folded too much for too long? Can you feel the heart that gave everything, even when it hurt to do so? If you can, then hold that with you. Let it guide your actions. Let it remind you that the quietest souls often need the loudest love. And now we will return to the present, my dears. We will leave the shadows of the past behind for a moment. But we will not leave the lessons behind. We will carry them forward. Because the truth is, Olivia's story does not end with her death. It lives in the love she inspired, the grief she left, and the hearts that remember her. So take a deep breath, and when you are ready, we will step back into today, and I will tell you what her story teaches us all.
Child, now that we've walked with Ethan through the quiet halls of his lonely childhood, let us step back into the present together and take a moment to understand what this all means. I see so many young souls out there, just like him, like our Reddit storyteller. Children and young adults building lives alone, holding their own hands, carrying invisible weights nobody asks about. And here is what I want you to hear. You can survive alone, and that is powerful. But surviving alone does not have to mean living unloved, unseen, or unheard. Every day you choose to continue, every day you pick yourself up when nobody else would, that is an act of quiet heroism. Ethan learned something vital as he grew into his own life. He realized that belonging doesn't always come from family. It doesn't always come from those who were supposed to be there. It comes from finding your place in the world, from nurturing yourself, and from the rare souls who show up authentically in your life. If you are listening and you feel invisible, lonely, or forgotten, I want you to remember this. Your life matters. Your struggles matter. Your triumphs matter, even if nobody claps. Reach for connection wherever you can. Allow yourself to accept help. Celebrate your victories, even if it's just you and a mirror or you and a friend who truly cares. And for those of you who are parents, guardians, mentors, listen carefully. Some children grow up without anyone checking in. Some children thrive in silence but ache in secret. Notice them, celebrate them, ask them how they are, and really listen. Child, the truth I want you to carry from Ethan's story and from the Reddit writer's story is this. The world may forget to see you, but survival, courage, and self-worth can create a life even the loneliest soul can claim as their own. And now, my dear, we prepare to close the page, not on an ending, but on a promise. Because on this porch, every story matters, every silence matters, and every heartbeat of survival deserves to be honored.
Come sit a little closer now, my loves. This is the part where I close the journal for tonight, where the ink dries and the porch falls quiet, and we let Olivia's story rest. Not forgotten, but held gently like a fragile bird in cupped hands. You've walked with me through her life, through her giving, through her unraveling, through her silence. Not every story ends the way our hearts wish it would, but every story leaves something behind. A truth, a warning, a whisper. And Olivia's whisper, it's still here on this porch. Soft, delicate, but sharp enough to change a life if you let it. Before we leave, I want you to breathe with me for a moment. Just breathe. Let your shoulders drop. Let your heart unclench. You've carried something heavy with me tonight. Set it gently down beside you. We don't have to hold everything forever, only what makes us better. Now, as for next week's story, my dear children, I've been debating whether to tell this one. It's a tale wrapped in secrets and stitched with the kind of love that leaves scars you can't see but feel every time you close your eyes. It's about a mother who spent nearly 20 years pretending her life was fine because she thought pretending was the same as surviving. But the truth? Oh, the truth. It has a way of kicking down doors no matter how many locks you put on them. Her story begins with a single sentence she whispered to me on a rainy evening, much like this one. Clara, I think my daughter is learning to hide her pain from me. That is where we'll begin next time. And I hope, with all the weathered strength left in this old heart, that you'll sit with me again and listen. Because if Olivia taught us anything, it's that silence has roots, and they often start growing in childhood. Now go, my loves. Take care of your hearts. Take care of each other. And whatever you do, don't ignore the quiet ones. Grandma Clara closes the journal. The porch light flickers, and the night swallows the last word whole.